Good evening, everybody. I know when it's the end of the day session, it's always difficult to keep attention going and draw your whole attention. But let me tell you, this is the maritime arena. Whenever we talk of India-GCC cooperation, India, the Gulf, it is the oceans that play a very major role. And as you know, the kind of activities that have been happening from piracy to Houthi attacks and all kinds of happenings, illegal immigration, etc. Oceans, therefore, play a very important role. In fact, the 21st century is spoken of as the century of the seas, and the dawn of this century witnessed many strategic shifts. Most significant was the shift in focus from Pacific Atlantic to the Pacific Indian Ocean. So the emergence of a multipolar world and the expanding globalization in trade and commerce, coupled with the growth of Asian economies, which in turn call for a movement of energy and mineral resources from the Arabian Gulf and Africa, and their transportation of finished products from these nations to other parts of Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Americas, actually resulted in increased shipping between Indian and Pacific Oceans. So this also developed relationships, strategic partnerships between even extra-regional nations are very much interested in this area. And it is actually, as far as India is concerned and their vision is concerned, the Western Indian Ocean, basically the Arabian Sea, and the focus of our discussions today, the Gulf region, or the Western sitting, it's actually at the intersection of Asia, Africa, Europe, and is of great strategic importance to both to India as well as the Gulf nations, as it's a maritime gateway to Europe and North America from Asia. And a very important, strategically important sea lanes of communication pass through this area. And in fact, nothing new. Historian Radha Kumbud Mukherjee, in early part of 19th century, had actually said that we have ample evidence to show that for full 30 centuries, India had maintained a position as one of the foremost maritime countries, and especially talked about trading settlements in Arabia and in the cities of Persia and all over east coast of Africa. He had traded with the then known world, including countries under the dominion of Roman Empire. Much later, K.M. Panikkar actually propounded similar views and said that Indian ships had from the beginning of history sailed across the Arabian Sea to the Red Sea port and maintained intimate cultural and commercial connections with Egypt, Israel, and long before Hippolus disclosed the secret of monsoon to the Romans, our navigators had made use of these and sailed to the Bab el-Mandeb. Now, as you know, the Gulf nations are rich resources, and virtually we share a lot of common areas where we need to look after the security of this region. As you're aware, Persian Gulf, with 60% of the world's oil and 26% of natural gas reserves, the major oil arteries run through this. So what do we do in the 20th century? Towards the second half, it became clear that instead of the traditional conflicts at sea, we are also today looking at low-intensity maritime operations. We'll delve on this a little more later. It includes maritime terrorism, piracy, gun and drug trafficking, human trafficking, poaching, and illegal, unregulated, unreported fishing. And we have seen a lot of activities of the Horn of Africa, and where the ships, the warships, and the Coast Guard ships had to become active to look after the area. So we'll discuss all this, and I'm very, very happy to introduce a very distinguished panel that we have in this. Admiral Sunil Lanba, who's PVSM, AVSM, the former Chief of the Naval Staff. He was also Chairman of the Chiefs of Staff Committee, and subsequently, he was also heading the National Maritime Foundation. He's a specialist in navigation and direction. He's commanded several warships, including INS Mumbai and Ranvijay. He was awarded the Param Vishya Seva Medal and Ati Vishya Seva Medal, and he played a significant role in transforming Indian Navy's combat and training strategies. We have with us Dr. Ebtesam Al-Ketbi, the founder president of Emirates Policy Center and a professor of political science at the United Arab Emirates University. She served as a member of the Gulf Cooperation Council Consultative Commission from 2015 to 2024 and has been recognized among the 50 most influential women in the Arab world in 2018. Dr. Al-Ketbi is also a distinguished author, has published several works, including on UAE's role in empowering religious diplomacy, UAE's power building model, and Iran and the Biden administration. She is a board member of Arab Gulf States Institute in Washington, the Global Advisory Board of the Observer Research Foundation India, and the Advisory Council of the Middle East Institute in Washington, the International Advisory Board of the Italian MedOR Foundation, and the Indo-Pacific Civil Society Forum. She has also been accepted as a global member of the Non-Governmental Trilateral Commission Europe, as well as advisor to the Global Commission for Post-Pandemic Policy and T20 International. Then we have Dr. Ashraf. Mohamed Keshk is a research fellow and director of the Strategic International Studies Program at Derasat since 2012 and editor-in-chief of the Derasat Journal, focusing on Gulf and Arab security. With a PhD in political science from Cairo University in 2009, he specializes in Gulf defense, has mentored the NATO Defense College, and holds a Defense Studies Diploma. He is again an author of 6 books, including NATO and the Gulf countries, published in 2021, and Maritime Security of the Arab Gulf State in 2022. He delivers lectures on crisis management and writes weekly column for Akbar Al-Khalij. In fact, we can't have a more distinguished panel to discuss this. So the procedure we'll follow is that I will request each of our distinguished panelists to speak about 4 to 5 minutes and give their views on the broad subject, and then we will tackle, I will be asked some questions to them, and then we'll throw it open to questions from the audience. So may I first request Admiral Lanba to...
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's late in the evening, and receptors are at a lower level. But so be it. What especially people in North India tend to forget that we have been a maritime nation going back thousands and thousands of years. Indian seafarers sailed from the Malabar coast carrying the then black gold, that is pepper, to countries, to Egypt and other countries in West Asia, then on to the Mediterranean and then to Rome, from where they got back gold. It was an Indian navigator which showed the path to Vasco da Gama to come to the shores here. The Indian dhow, which is being constructed for over thousands and thousands of years, is still being made here and still plies between the West Coast and countries of the GCC. The whole day we've been talking about the large diaspora which lives in the GCC. And we are an energy deficit nation, and a very large segment of our energy basket is imported from GCC countries. Also, the fact is the Indian Navy is the largest resident navy of the Indian Ocean region. It is about 140 platforms strong, with an air wing of over 230 aircrafts and helicopters. By miles, it's the largest, most potent navy in the Indian Ocean region. If you look at deployments of ships, the other large deployed navy in the Indian Ocean region is the United States Navy, which any given time has between 30 to 45 ships deployed in the Indian Ocean region. When we look at what is, some aspects were covered by Admiral Ashok Kumar in the morning. When you look back in the last 10 years, what has been happening in the northern Indian Ocean, and especially in the Arabian Sea? One is we had this huge issue of piracy in the Gulf of Aden and off the coast of Somalia. And since 2008 October, the Indian Navy has been continuously deployed in the Gulf of Aden tackling anti-piracy, non-stop without a break. And I think we are the only Navy which has sunk 2 motherships, one in the Gulf of Aden and one off the Lakadiv Islands in this long duration of anti-piracy patrol. I don't know, Ashok Kumar covered on mission-based deployment, so ships are now deployed in areas of interest and available on station to tackle any emergency approaching. What is also important is our close linkages with GCC countries. Now I'm talking of maritime linkages. We have the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium. All the countries of GCC are members of IONS, and UAE hosted the IONS conclave way back in 2010. It rotates between countries. We have Navy-to-Navy agreements and staff talks with all the members of the GCC now, Saudi Arabia, Oman, UAE, Qatar. The oldest being with Oman. We've been carrying out biennial bilateral exercises with Oman since 1993. We've trained a large number of Omani naval officers and sailors in India, send mobile teams to Oman to train personnel within Oman. We have developed much closer relationship going back about 10 years with UAE, now Qatar, and now recently with Saudi Arabia. In 2018, I was the first Chairman Chiefs of Staff and a Chief of India to pay a visit to Saudi Arabia since independence. So now there have been exchange of this thing. We have wide shipping agreements. And Oman has been a critical partner in our maritime relationship with the Gulf. Since 2008, ships deployed on anti-piracy patrol have done their operational turnaround and logistic support in port of Salalah. We have a logistic arrangement now signed in 21 in the port of Duqm, where we've been agreed to set up an air enclave where aircrafts can operate from the air strip which is there in Duqm. And we've been having bilateral exercises with all the countries of GCC. So we've gone a long way in a maritime relationship. And close linkages, both economically, diaspora-wise, energy-wise, the maritime domain plays a very important role. And we need to strengthen the Navy-to-Navy relationship with all the countries of the GCC. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Admiral Lanba. May I now request Dr. Ebtesam Al-Ketbi to make her opening remarks.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, we are coming at the end of the day and with a heavy topic. We're supposed to start in the morning, so bear us. Somebody might be thinking, what brings women to maritime and security? To your knowledge, I have another name. It's not included in my CV. They call me General because I am tough. Since we are talking about maritime security and I'm coming from GCC and UAE in particular, and we have that project. Both we are in partners, which is the IMEC, which is the most important, and the issue that it's not going anywhere and it's needed to be activated in to be tackled from different way, from out of the box. I used to be frank in my talk, and I did this why people respect. This initiative, yes, it's coming in the G20 meeting, but it came from the American to counter Belt and Road. And we shouldn't, the member of this initiative, shouldn't we look at it from that angle? We should look at it from our interest angle, okay? And it shouldn't be only, because it means it has political interests. It should be having economic interests, which is mainly now, and we should think now, what is the challenging we are facing? Main challenges we are facing is the geopolitical challenges. We have that when that was going, Gaza, when Gaza war erupted, the IMEC stopped. And we didn't do anything since that time. And of course, this is exacerbated by Houthi attack against. So I'm always saying, when you do any project, you have always to bear in your mind the spoilers. Iran felt they have been excluded from that project. So of course there will be spoilers. Anyone excluded from that will think they are that will be turned to be spoiler. Our region always plagued by geopolitical challenges, war, conflict, everywhere. So how to come with idea to make it a win-win situation for all those? Where is that project going on? Piracy is another problem we are facing, especially the Horn of Africa. Also, there is some ports are in this corridor are not capable like other ports. So you need to enhance all the ports all over the way. India can play a role in that by track 1.5 diplomacy in stabilizing that area with your diplomacy. I mean, you shouldn't wait. I mean, the Chinese is there in Gaza, the Russian was, the American, of course. India is more near to this region. They are far away. You should have a role in that. The other thing I would take, when I'm saying thinking out of the box, why we should only looking where's the way going, India to Gulf, then to Israel, then to Europe. There are another way. UAE thought another way. Since we are stuck with what's happening in Gaza, we thought about development road going UAE, Iraq, Turkey. India can use that also through the Gulf. There is another way you can go and make the Egyptian also a winner from that, because they were upset that they've not been included in that, and that Suez Canal will be abandoned from this project. It can go through Alexandria also, and will have another way to go through. So the more corridors you are creating for IMEC, the more we can proceed forward. The other side is the European. Until now, I didn't see the European, what they are going to bring, because they are also stuck with their bureaucracy on the EU. They have a lot of problem and compromising where this is going on. How did they will allocate the money for that projects? It's easy from our side. So if we reached either through Alexandria or through Israel, might be Syria also, another, if they are stable, will be another station. How can we move away to Europe from other side? There are, I mean, thinking of alternatives will make it. So I would say that the success of IMEC will depend mainly India, GCC. This is the main pillars for this corridor. Maritime security, securing the corridor by deconflicting, by diplomacy, by also naval, by any means. So this is what I'm talking about, thinking out of the box when you form any project. What will be the challenges and the obstacle of that, so we can come over it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll discuss this a little later. In the meantime, may I request Dr. Keshk to make his opening remarks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank BBRC and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for inviting me to talk about this issue, which became one of the main security challenges, not only for GCC, but also for India and all over the world, because of what's happening nowadays in the Red Sea and Bab el-Mandab from Houthis. And briefly, when we go through the history, we can find that the civilization along the coast of Indian Ocean, except the ancient Egyptian civilization, were mainly focused on trade, not competition, and the conflict. And this is a main basic of our cooperation in the future, besides the other point were mentioned here in this dialogue, like Indian workers in the GCC and exchanging trade and investment. But there is some point, allow me to mention regarding to this issue. First, there is a significant interest from India in the issue of maritime security. I had opportunity to attend a very important conference in Delhi in November, gathering 125 participants from India and all over the world. It was very important conference to highlight the many points of this issue. My conclusion of this conference was achieving the maritime security is difficult to any country to accomplish on this its own without fostering close international partnership. Second point is, during the participation of Indian Minister of Foreign Affairs in 20th Manama Dialogue in December, he has highlighted the Indian efforts to ensure maritime security. These efforts are not only reflected strategic plans. Even India has a maritime security strategy, which include 300 initiatives, but also it was a real example and actions. Because during this session, one of the audience from GCC asked him directly, what's the Indian action to reply the maritime threats in our region? And he replied directly in 2021, when the oil tankers attacks near to Hormuz Strait, he go directly to Iran and told them clear message: India not allow to any partner in the region to threatening the ships in this area. Third point is increasing cooperation between Arab Gulf states and India. It's very important. And also there is new and significant indicators growing security and defense, which I will discuss in my presentation. Fourth point is, when we talk about to be realistic, when we discuss the Indian Indian GCC relations. India is not only the main player on one of the players in the region, because we have already security and defense partnerships with United States, with NATO, and we received huge security and defense initiatives. That doesn't mean India is not important, but we have to ask ourselves what's the added value can India give to the GCC in maritime security, because we have already our partnership since maybe more 3 decades or more. Number 5, when we discuss the Indian rules in the maritime security in the Arab Gulf, it doesn't mean necessarily means that we need military naval presence in our region. No, we have to talk about how to cooperate in security needs. GCC as a small and medium states still has security needs in maritime security. One of them building capacity and also thinking beyond traditional foundation. GCC is still in need of to cooperate how to manage disaster in the sea. Also, the last point is what can India add to mutual training in the maritime security for GCC. Number 6, when we discuss the partnership between India and the Arab Gulf states, I'm wondering, why doesn't India announce maritime cooperation initiative with GCC as a regional organization, which my colleague Zahra mentioned in previous session? Why India doesn't want to deal? Okay, we have framework, Secretary General mentioned yesterday, but we didn't have a lot of work on this framework, because one of the dilemma of GCC to dealing with its international partnership is for NATO, for example, is based a partnership based on NATO 32 plus 1. This is not from NATO as an organization to GCC. So this is a very good chance for India to offer an initiative on maritime security to GCC as organization. Number 7, it may be beneficial to explore the idea of establishing a forum on regional security, including countries from East Asia, that gathering India and GCC. Why we are not thinking on that way? Because this partnership in our region not built within 5 or 10 years, like we mentioned here in various sessions. These partnerships with the international partners built during more than 2 decades or more. So it building on mutual trust, on actions, on what happened already in our region, because if we come back to the history, we can find, yes, the United States lead all the military coalition in our region, and this is all points. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think some relevant issues have been raised. Some of these we'll tackle during the question and answer session also. Since Dr. Ketbi raised the issue of IMEC. As you know, it's a very ambitious project, alternate faster routes for time being. So what are the maritime challenges being faced and how can we solve them? May I ask the other 2 speakers to give their views, since Dr. Ketbi has already given some views on it. May I first request Admiral Lanba?
See, the IMAC is a very ambitious project, but unfortunately it's been taken over by geostrategic realities of what is happening in West Asia. Now that the ceasefire deal is on the cards between Hamas and Israel, and how that goes forward and stabilizes, and how the major players in the IMAC, Saudi Arabia, UAE, their relations develop with Israel, the IMAC will go forward, but it's going to be, in my opinion, a long time in coming. Maritime, because of the conflict in West Asia and the problem of the Houthis in the Gulf of Bab al-Mandab, there has been a diversion of traffic going through the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. The traffic has almost come down by 35 to 40%, very large number of oil tankers have now started avoiding going through the Red Sea and going around the Cape of Good Hope. That's the reality of the shipping routes on ground which is taking place at the moment. There are a number of navies, including the Indian Navy, who have provided escort to ships in distress, ships which have been attacked by drones and other systems. Assistance have been provided by the Navy. And there have been proactive actions by not only India, but the Brits, the French, the American Navy. But it's a geostrategic challenge which needs to have a holistic look by members of the GCC and other players in the region, including India.
Thank you. Dr. Keshk, your views on this IMEC?
Thank you very much. I think before I answer your question, I have to mention that very positive indication about Indian role in maritime security also during last 10 years. According to the annual report of the Indian Ministry of Defense, the total number of visits of Indian naval ships to the Gulf states between 2013 to 2023 amounted 35 visits, 35. 5 to Kuwait, 5 to Qatar, 6 to UAE, and Oman 6 visits, Saudi Arabia 2, Saudi Arabia 6, and Bahrain 2. Also, there are several agreements have signed between India and the Gulf since 2016 till now. I think more than 10 agreements. Also, I mentioned before some indication about some of Gulf countries and India are members in a regional arrangement to address the maritime security, and there is many elements of that. But I think the main challenge to address maritime security is to how the specific question for the Gulf or for the India, because this is two approaches. For the Gulf, we have our own challenge in the region. We have huge threats from Iran, and we have imbalance of power between the Gulf maritime forces and Iran. For example, Iran has 385 maritime items, in comparison with 6 Gulf countries, 375. So this is a huge challenge. Second point is the Iranian threats to close the Bab al-Mandab Strait and what's happening now supporting Houthis in Bab al-Mandab. The third point is regarding to India. To be honest, when I invited to this conference, I have to read more about Indian role, and I found my result was Indian is dealing with maritime security in our region is mission by mission. There is no permanent strategy for India to cooperate with the Gulf state. So in comparison what I mentioned with mission by mission, yes, it came to Bab al-Mandab, came to Hormuz, it's mission by mission. India is not a part of the coalition led by United States. Okay, it's its own foreign policy. But I mean, we need a permanent partner because we have permanent threats in our region. We have, during Iran-Iraq war, we have oil tanker attacked from Iran and Iraq. And we have also, this is in 2019, 2021, oil tankers also targeted from Iran and Houthis. And so I think now we have many partners. We have EU mission. We have a military coalition led by United States. We have now India as an individual. We have China also as an individual. So for us as a small and medium state, we need a comprehensive partnership about the concept of maritime security and how can we address these challenges. We can put a timeline in the short term, we have to do that, and the long term, we have to do that. This is the second point. The last point is, I think, the competition the competition in our region is not a matter of maritime security, because this is a competition from India, China, from the United States to the Horn of Africa. So it's reflected negatively to address the challenges of maritime security in our region. Thank you.
Well, I think you brought out a lot of the complexities in this. But I would say here, before going into depth in this, the very fact that virtually every country with a navy or a maritime aspect, whether it's a European country, American country, China, they're all extra-regional powers coming to try and play a role in this role. So this is where, taking on from this, I'll ask Dr. Ketbi, something that you mentioned in your opening remarks too, that India wants to become a very reliable regional partner to the GCC. But exactly what was raised about the complexity and West Asian politics following the Israel-Hamas and the shipping attacks throws up a lot of challenges, because India maintains a very balanced approach towards Israel, Iran, as well as other Gulf countries. And you know, historically, India has never been partnering any of this. Even in the pre-era, we did not either become partner of one of the countries. So, but when needed, for example, Indian Navy increased its deployment to well over 12 ships in response to shipping attacks in Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. And none of the other countries that you mentioned were willing to pitch in. Without being partner of any of these coalitions, we looked after security, a lot of the aspects there. So, Dr. Ketbi, how do you think, you mentioned about track 1.5 diplomacy in particular, facilitate India's policy of non-alignment and regional security simultaneously?
Okay. In the previous session, I think people to people, they've mentioned that the Indian are shy. I mean, Indian community are shy in our region. It seems this is also same for on the official level, governmental level. You wait until somebody is inviting you. Don't wait. Just everybody, they are not waiting. Just look to your interest. And your interest is in that, the region beside you. We have historical relation. So don't wait and offer what you can offer. And what I mean, that 1.5 diplomacy, bridge building with the regional stakeholders. This is the first thing you have to do. Track 1.5 diplomacy allows India to engage with multiple stakeholders in the region, including governmental representative, academic, think tank. I mean, this is something should not be only on the level of official to official. This is what I was trying when I raised my question, that ambassadors, they are not only sent to represent only their government in one side, should go to other. That's when I mentioned Suri, because he went all over the Emirates, engaged with women, think tank, youth, everybody, businessmen. This is how you can, this is what does it mean by 1.5. So the other thing also, conflict de-escalation and confidence building. We are talking about Hamas-Israel conflict. I think there's still a long time. We are talking about reconstruction, Gaza. Also, Indian companies should put their foot there. Why you are waiting? The European, the American, the other they are. Why you don't go there and present yourself in that? Because it will take long time. By the way, still, this conflict, this is only ceasefire. Ceasefire. Still, the future of Gaza is not feasible. It will be. The Israeli will take it and put their troops there. Palestinian Authority will be sharing that. It will be under I would say, international community will be there. Still, the future is not there. That's what I'm saying. You have to think for other routes. Don't wait until conflict is settled. So you can use this channel 1.5 to promote dialogue on shared challenges for maritime security. Hold that kind of conferences, many, and here in GCC, what is the challenges? What India can offer in facing these challenges. Other things is policy, coherence, and strategic communication. So this diplomacy also allows India to convey its commitment to non-alignment and peaceful resolution of dispute without taking one side to others. And I think, come on guys, you have Gandhi Peace Initiative. This is, you can sell it. You are not using it. India as a peaceful country can bring peace to those things. You have generous, you are not using it. You are waiting to somebody to invite you. Nobody will invite. Nobody will invite. Chinese hasn't been invited. American left from the door, Chinese came from the window. So you have to think in that thinking. So also dealing with non-state actors. This is what we have in the region. Non-state actors in piracy, in Houthi, ISIS, all of those can risk any kind of project we have in the region. Also, you have your experience in fighting terrorism. Why you don't share it with others? This is what I'm talking about 1.5 diplomacy.
Okay. I've heard that. Now, let's focus on this topic. What we are discussing today is the maritime security. So may I ask Admiral Sunil Lanba, how can India and GCC enhance their maritime security cooperation, which will also help balance the influence of other global powers in the region? And also, since we're running short of time, I will add on to say that while traditionally most nations have been reliant on West for security, GCC countries like Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates are now expanding their global political alliances. So can India play a significant role in enhancing security, especially the maritime security in the Gulf region?
For over a decade now, the country has been focused on the maritime dimension, and there has been a proactive approach on engaging. Let's stick to GCC. I'm not going to go all over the world with countries of the GCC on maritime issues. The initiative of the discussions has been initiated by India. Okay. Let me be a specific example. The agreement which we signed with Oman over the port of Duqm was an Indian initiative raised by the Indian Navy through the government, and then it took almost 3 to 4 years of discussion and effort for the agreement to be finally signed in 2021. And it's not been mission-based only. There has been a focused approach on providing maritime security. If you take anti-piracy operations in the Gulf of Aden and off the Somali coast, the GCC countries did nothing about it. It was extra-regional navies and the Indian Navy along with the Chinese Navy, even the Korean Navy deployed for some time, including the Japanese Navy, which tackled the issue of anti-piracy patrol in the Gulf of Aden and off the Horn of Africa. Similarly, Strait of Bab el-Mandab and what is happening with Houthis and all that, it's been the Indian Navy to a large measure and other extra-regional navies, basically European navies which have deployed. And whenever there has been an issue in the Strait of Hormuz, couple of years back, Admiral Ashok Kumar will also know, the Indian Navy escorted tankers from the Persian Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz into the Arabian Sea, mainly concentrating on Indian flag tankers because no other nation sought our assistance. Okay. So we have come a long way in maritime engagements with countries of GCC. The engagements have been bilateral between individual countries. There has been, I'm not aware of Navy-to-Navy talk between India and GCC. It's been with individual countries. I'm not aware whether the GCC has a defense focus in it. I don't think so that is the case. So it's been bilateral engagements and we have signed agreements with all countries and there has been a focus of sharing maritime domain awareness, that we know what's happening on the ocean, what are the ships there. We already signed an agreement with Oman in 2016, if my memory is correct, and now there's a discussion going on with UAE. And we are sharing this information and pictures with all our partners. So there has been proactive action on the part of India, and we have not been laid back and waiting for invitations. Proactive actions to take issues of maritime security and maritime issues with residence Navy within the GCC and other countries. We also have an engagement with Iran. Iran has always had an issue with other Gulf states. Okay. There has been maritime engagements with Iran also going back decades. We have excised with them. Ships have visited Iranian ports. I've gone myself to Bandar Abbas more than 30 years ago. So engagements are there. And I think we are one binding factor within the Gulf on these issues. Okay.
Thank you. I think we're running short of time. I would like to add that apart from what Admiral Lanba mentioned, I think recently we had the visit of the Indian naval ships Tir and Indian Coast Guard ship Veera to Bahrain in October last year. Again, it's been certainly contributed to strengthening of India-Bahrain relations and maritime cooperation. May I now request anybody in the audience would like a question? Yeah. Ambassador Bhatia.
Thank you very much, Chair. Without any preface, I have very quick two questions, one to Admiral Lanba and the other to Dr. Al-Ketbi. Just to put West policy in larger perspective, my understanding is that for the last few years, through the Quad and all related developments, there was a great deal of focus on the Indo-Pacific, where India was thinking a lot about South China Sea, the area around Taiwan and even South Pacific nations. But in the last 3-4 years, this tension is back to the subcontinental waters and to West Asia. Is that at all a correct perception, Admiral? And Madam, the very fact that your presence here, which is very, very beneficial, shows that there is 1.5 track dialogue between Emirates Policy Center and CPPR. My question to you is your center having this kind of linkages and dialogue, 1.5, but also 2.0 with other institutions in India? Thank you.
Okay, sir. Ambassador, there has been no lack of focus. It is more a media perception which comes that there is a whole lot of dialogue and write-up on Quad from 2017 onwards. And now when there was an issue of bubble mandap and all that, there has been focus. Within the Government of India and the Navy, we not only looked at Indo-Pacific, but also had a focus simultaneously together on the Arabian Seas and the issues happening in the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea and the state of bubble mandap. So it's not been that we've been looking in one direction and then again coming back. That's not been the case. there has been a focus on the overall issues of Indian Ocean as large and the larger Indo-Pacific.
Allow me to comment on your first question, although it was not posed to me, and I will come back to that. I'm saying that we are countries in the region, either India or in our region or other region. This world now under competition between two giants, China and UAE, and each one of them want to push you to their own interests. And this is where we are suffering, either by Indo-Pacific, either by Quad, either by many kind of alliances. Mainly American try to push you, which is sometimes, it's not the way you and us want to live under that pressure, putting all our resources in competing with other or fighting or doing. But I think you two was one of those useful. Of course, it was stopped because of Gaza war or India, France, UAE also. That is other one, which is coming to your question, sir. Yes, one of those were. I remember 2017, we held a workshop with ORF on GCC and India. That was a long time. We tackled many issues. Security, one of these issues, not only maritime security, security in common. And I was talking to the Vice Ambassador that we should do something, but it was UAE, India relation. And I would love to invite any kind of, any one of those think tanks to that dialogue. The more you have, more perspective, it will be more, the outcome will be more constructive. And I think this is the job of think tank. We call ourselves think tank to do. We are not academic think tank. We are providing a policy recommendation to our decision makers.
Okay, last question, Ambassador Rajamani.
No, I have a question.
We have run short of time, so we just have one question from...
Sir, I have a question. May I? I've raised my hand many times. I don't have a question. I just want to share this with Madam. Can I do that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so you know, when you talk about IMEC, there are two major reasons why IMEC was thought of in the first place. One is to contain and give a secure trade passage for all the countries who want to do trade. But that involves a lot of naval presence, increased naval presence. Now that presents a dilemma because increased naval presence also leads to conflict, and I leave that for you. The second is that unless you understand that the fundamental threat is about Chinese dominance economically with their blue economy, etc., IMEC's main purpose will not be served. It's not about managing the piracy, trafficking, very many things that you mentioned. But it's the fundamental economic challenge that is the domination that China poses. That's a serious challenge that IMEC needs to address. And I think those two interests have not gone away. So I think that probably forms a very good cement for taking this relationship or this partnership further. What are you thinking?
Thank you, ma'am. I think we got to close now because the next speakers, the concluding session speakers come. And I know this is a very complex topic. And a lot of issues were mentioned this morning by Admiral Ashok Kumar, how we can include. He talked of basically getting the maritime domain awareness of the area. The Information Fusion Center set up by India in Gurugram is a big way of attaching. And I would also add that as far as the maritime security is concerned, what Prime Minister Narendra Modi had proposed at the seminar at Bangkok on Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative at the East Asia Summit it talks of there are 7 pillars which actually, one of them is maritime security, maritime ecology, goes on to resources, capacity building and resource sharing, disaster risk reduction. Now all these are issues that between India and GCC can also expand on and work together. It is something without any treaty but mutual cooperation. And as he said at the Shangri-La Dialogue, that maritime issues are going to influence the world at large in the 21st century. And India is always planning, as to quote the Prime Minister, we'll work with others to keep our sea, space and airways free and open, nations secure from terrorism, our cyberspace free from disruption and conflict. This is how we wish ourselves and our partner to proceed in this region and beyond. And I think India and GCC can cooperate in all these aspects. I'm sure the maritime links are there, been centuries and decades, and it will hold us through again in the coming decades. So I'm sure we can cooperate on this, and together we can ensure maritime security, which will ensure that it is business as usual, all the traffic going on. Thank you. I'll stop here.
We now invite Dr. Dhanaraj to present mementos to our speakers as a token of our gratitude for their valuable contributions.